We are sitting here with the Republican ticket in the state of Ohio for 2010, John Kasich, Mary Taylor. Good to see both of you.
Thank you very much.
Let me start this interview in a very unique way, and there's a point to it, and I'll get to it in a second. But let me ask both of you, kind of move in here, and let me take a picture of you. All right, and I will post this immediately on Twitter and Facebook. That seems to be where we're going, right? You all announced this pick via Twitter, which is kind of unique. So let me ask you, Congressman, is this the future?
Well, there isn't any question that social network sites are, whether it's Facebook, whether it's Twitter, whether it's our website, this exciting time, 21st century, when people now are communicating in different ways. And I think that Mary and I were the first candidates in American political history to announce what they were doing on Twitter.
Right.
And then when we had our press conference, we used Ustream, an uplink for people to be able to go on their computers and watch the announcement. We had over 14,000 people on Ustream, and probably if you add our website in, we could have reached as many as 20,000 people. When you think about a 20,000 person crowd, it's really awesome, and it's personalized to them. So we intend to use 21st century tools. And frankly, there's no surprise here. Obama he got it.
I was going to ask you that too.
Guess what? We get it too. And we've used this website and Facebook and Twitter and everything else, and my goal is to get a lot of grandmas learning how to tweet.
My mom's even signed up for Facebook, so it's coming.
It
is. I think, slowly but surely.
It's here.
Right, it is here. Mary, let me ask you, as we look at the campaign, as we look at the next 10 months, as the state auditor right now, and you having been critical of the federal stimulus money, as we look at possible plans to either eliminate or phase out the income tax in the state of Ohio, as a CPA, is that realistic?
What we need to do in Ohio, which is something that I have been suggesting for several months, we need to look at how government functions. We need to look at what is it really going to take to reform government and cut its size, make it so that we create an environment where businesses can locate and create jobs. We do performance audits at the Auditor of State's office all across the state of Ohio. We work with our local school districts, and we compare them against similarly situated school districts, for example, in one area to another. And we say to them, look, your neighbor across the county is doing it different, and quite frankly, it's better. It's something that you should consider. And that's what we need to do in Ohio. We need to look at this differently, and we need to say, how do we transform government, bring it into its dated functions, dated structure, and bring it into the modern century so that we can have a bright future?
Congressman, you're going to be hit by Democrats throughout the summer and fall on this. That's a 40% kind of hit out of the state budget. How do you make up for it if you do phase out the income tax?
Well, look, first of all, people said when I was Budget Committee Chairman in '95, how are you going to get rid of deficits, cut taxes, and restore prosperity? I said, just watch. And we had a team of people that analyzed every single government program. And what happened? The economy started to get better. We had a budget deal that took us from massive deficits to massive surpluses. We cut taxes so people would take risks and invest. The problem in Ohio is that businesses do not look at Ohio as a place where the wind is at their back. They are always faced with struggles. If you're a small business person, either your taxes are too high, the regulations are too harsh, your workers' comp is strangling you. We have no choice in this. If we don't create an environment in Ohio that favors small business and entrepreneurship, people are going to leave. And what's been happening in the state is people between the ages of 25 and 50, 55, they're leaving. They're taking their kids, they're taking their revenue, they're spending. We have to reverse that, and we cannot reverse it if we're going to have high taxes, too much government. You look at Texas, you look at Tennessee, you look at Florida, and even look across the border at Indiana where they've made substantial progress. They're stealing our jobs. I don't like it. We're going to stop it. We're going to get jobs here in this state.
Congressman, let me ask you kind of a hardball question, but it is one that I know that you know already that you're going to face. When I interviewed the governor a few weeks ago, he mentioned in his first answer Lehman Brothers. Mm-hmm. Speaker Buttigieg held a press conference earlier this week. He mentioned Lehman Brothers. Mm-hmm. The Ohio Democratic Party, in response to your pick today, mentioned Lehman Brothers. I noticed that in your 3-page bio that was handed out as sort of part of the press kit, that there's no mention of Lehman Brothers. Will it be a legitimate campaign issue and we know the 30-second spot is probably coming, connecting you to Wall Street and your time there, and how do you respond to what will be constant criticism that you were perhaps connected in some way to the meltdown of Wall Street?
Well, I mean, first of all, these are people who failed. And like I said, that if it's a good thing that Ted Strickland had a ditch to drive the state into, because if the ditch wasn't there, we'd have gone over the cliff. So let's forget that. Let's talk about what I did at Lehman Brothers. I operated out of a 2-man office in Columbus, Ohio, and I traveled all over this country helping businesses to be more successful. I was involved in the Google IPO, you know, the initial public offering. We know how great Google has done. I was involved in the initial public offering of Designer Shoe Warehouse. You go around, you see all these additional stores. I mean, that's how you create jobs. See, my work in business, on corporate boards, both public and private, my work at Lehman Brothers taught me about how business leaders make decisions. You know what our problem is? We have too many politicians as professional politicians. They don't understand economics. They don't understand how jobs get created. And frankly, part of the reason why I'm running is I had that successful political career, and now you combine it with a successful business career, and thank the good Lord, you put the formula together, and you have determination, discipline, and you know how to create jobs. So, yeah, this is all about mudslinging. We don't have time for that. I don't have time for all that. Now, the challenge is huge, and Mary and I are going to focus like a laser on transforming this state.
Let me ask you, Mary, how did this ticket happen? I mean, you're an auditor in a very important position. Republicans desperately want to hold that post this fall when we look at apportionment next year. Now you're kind of giving up that position, and I know the party is kind of scrambling to find a candidate. How did this all come about?
Well, I don't want to speak for John and the process of his team when they were making their decisions about who they thought would be the best candidate for lieutenant governor, but it very simply was John Kasich making a phone call to Mary Taylor, and you know, John, we had a great conversation, spent a little bit of time together. We talked in depth and in detail about the vision that John has for Ohio, about the things that they've been doing the last 2 years to formulate real plans, goals that can be achieved. My husband and I came down on Sunday evening and had dinner with John and Karen, and pretty much it was, well, the real story is John said, I've asked a woman on a date, I've asked a woman to marry me, but I've never asked a woman to be my lieutenant governor. That's exactly what you said. And so that's really how it really all happened. And so we talked a little bit more, and I said, well, I've been asked on a date, I've been asked to be married, and I've never been asked to be lieutenant governor. So here we are. Here we are with a common goal and common vision.
And it seems like, when you look at Ohio politics, it seems like it's a logical pick, but Congressman, was there a vetting process? Were there other potential candidates there through the last few months?
Mary was always at the top of the list, and she's capable of being governor. She's smarter than a whip. She's principled, and you know, she's a great person with values. I mean, she comes from the same kind of stock that I come from, personal.
And so along that same line, let me ask you the final question. Who is Ted Strickland? You made reference to the ditch and what have you. Who is your opponent in your mind, and how do you describe him to the state of Ohio as you campaign against him this year?
First of all, I'm not spending my time campaigning against Ted Strickland. He's had his chance, okay? I'm campaigning for something. I'm campaigning to create these jobs and give people the hope that things can be better in this state. You know, I mentioned at the press conference that in Warren, Ohio, people are taking their class rings and their mother's jewelry that their mother gave them, and they're going into a pawn shop to get hundreds of dollars to support their family. What I've got in my mind is, what are we going to do to reverse that? Give those people hope, and hope all across the state. This is just not like a political campaign. This is a movement to make sure that Ohio can be great again. It was great when I came here in 1970, and my commitment is to make it great again. This is not about anybody else, or politics, or party, or any of that other stuff. This is about making things right.
The Republican ticket for the state of Ohio in 2010, John Kasich, Mary Taylor, good to see both of you. Hope to see a lot of you in the coming months.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll be